Right, we introduced ourselves in our last lesson to margin and padding. And why we set the margin and padding to 0 is because we said we want to be totally in charge. We want a situation whereby we could be able to use the whole page, not leaving out any part of the page. And by default, the browser has set some restrictions for us. You can see there's a space by the left here and there's a space at the top here that we cannot write or do anything with. So now we are going to give an instruction to override the browser's default instructions so that we'll completely be in charge. And to do that, we created a style, a CSS file, and we link it up with our HTML file with a link tag. Okay, and we set the margin to 0 and we set the padding to 0. So now that I've done that, I'll save it, Control S to save, go back to my browser now and refresh. You can now see that the space has been removed. So there's no space at the left and there's no space at the at the top. Okay, so that means I can now use 100% the entire web page. So okay, so let's go ahead. All right, good. So now the next thing we want to do now is introduce what we call I'm going to take what's it called, I'm going to use this place. Now the first tag we have here is the body tag, so I want to give the body a background color. Now you will discover that in this HTML the body does not have a class name. Okay, so if you are working with a tag in your HTML, if you are working with a tag in your HTML and you do not give that tag a class name, okay, that means if and you want to give instruction to that tag from your CSS, then you have to call the tag directly by its name because you did not give it a tag, a class name. But if you're giving it a class name, you are going to call it by the class name you've given it. So I want to use a black background, okay. So but for this body, but the body does not have a class name, so I'm going to call it directly by its name. So I'm going to go body. So, and to give it a background color, so I'm going to type background color. Just type background color. Okay, that's all. You see, very important, background color. Then you can just type black. That's all. So once you do that, go back to your browser and refresh. You can see everything has changed to black. But you can see that by default, the text that you use are how will I put it? They are also black. The color of your text is black, and that's why it's looking as if it's not showing. All right, this one are not black, they are blue because I have linked them. So once you link a particular text or any image, it usually has this blue color. Otherwise it will have also been swallowed by the background color. All right, so but I'm going to work on that yet. So let's start to pick our class name. So the first class name I have here is the wrapper, so I'm going to call it first and give it some set of instruction. Okay, so the wrapper is the first class I have here. Okay, so and how do you call a class from your style? Like I said, if you do not attach a class to a tag, you call that tag directly by its name, which is what we have done here. But this one, the div tag, we have given it a class name and we call it a wrapper. So how do you call a class from your style? You call a class simply by typing a dot, okay, or a full stop as you want to put it, followed by the class name. So in this case, wrapper. Okay, then open your coil bracket. Okay, so I'm going to set the width to 80%. That is, you know, the whole page is 100%, so but I want the wrapper to take up 80% of the whole page. That's what I mean by that. And I want the height, I want to set the height to, let's say, 15 VH. Okay, 15 VH simply means 15 vertical height. Okay, so I will save as well, and I'm going, for me to see this, I'm going to set the background color to white. Okay, I'm going to set the background color to white, and let's go back and refresh our browser. Let's see how that one plays out. Okay, you can see that this now, you can now see 15 VH. You can see the height of 15 VH, and you can see that I set the width to 80%. So it means from here, it means that from here to this place is the remaining 20%. Okay, is the remaining 20%. All right, good. But I want it to align to the center. All right, so to do that, there's several ways I can do that, but the one I'm going to be making use of is this. So let me just quickly change this. All right, so I will set margin to auto. Okay, now margin comes with different properties. You can have margin right, margin left, margin top, and margin bottom. Okay, so and when you now set margin to auto, is simply going to give it a random margin, and it will set that margin across that content. Okay, so margin, I'm going to set it to auto. Good, and you're going to see what it's going to do now. So I'll refresh. You can see it has bring it to the center. So just pretty much note as I'm using all of these things what they are doing, so that you understand them properly. So it has set it to auto. Okay, good. Now that is that for wrapper. Now don't forget that wrapper gave birth to two children. The first one is nav1 and the second one is nav2. Okay, so I want a wrapper to, there's a way I want wrapper to display its children. So I'm going to set for wrapper here display. That's what we call display. Okay, you know, just like when you want to present your children, you can ask them to line up in a particular form. That's exactly what this does. It's what we call display. We call it and I'm going to call it flex. Now what flex does is that it allows items to be aligned side by side by default. So they can line up side by side by default. So that is, for instance, if the first child here, let me select this. So the first child here is nav1, nav1. Okay, and it will bring the second child here, which is nav2. Okay, so it's going to allow them to align like this by default if you use flex. Okay, so however, if you don't want them to align like this, there's now what we call flex direction. So you can simply change the direction. But don't forget that wrapper has just two children. The first one is the nav1 and the nav2. But we also remember that each of these children also gave birth to their own children as well too. But we're not talking about their children for now. We're talking about them as children to wrapper. Okay, so we have told wrapper to display its two children, nav1 and 2, in flex format. So save this now. So I'm going to save this now and go back to my browser and refresh. You can see that the nav1, okay, which holds the address, the email, and the hotmail, okay, is at one side, and the one that holds the logo and the menu is at the other side. Initially it was at the bottom. Okay, so let me erase this. So that you'll be able to get it properly. All right, you can see that they are lining up side by side. All right, so quickly, the next thing I would like to do here now is that I'll come here and do what we call no, okay, I think that's where I'll pretty much stop it here for today. and I will continue from here in the next lesson. Do subscribe if you haven't. Thank you.